Good morning, everybody. So I guess the class strength is quite less. I wonder what's happening. Maybe we will give them another 2 minutes to join. So is there any reason why there is so low participation? Does anyone have any idea?
Sir, I think in academic
Just
calendar it is
ended.
mentioned that 4 days break, I guess, till 31st. So
Really,
we
I
have to
was,
inform others.
I see, but I was not told. Nobody. I mean, I asked the department, and then they said, "Is that so?" I mean, has others seen this too? Let me just check the academic calendar. So, Tushar, where did you see this? This is the academic calendar.
Yes, sir, that
Hmm?
mid-semester recess it is given. It's like
So, there is no recess,
a
right?
fifth row. Yes. Yes, sir. Yes.
No, but there is,
No, sir, I thought it is like that from
yeah,
20.
24th is already,
Yes. There are no
yeah,
dates
so
given.
24th is already over.
Yes.
Okay. Anyway, I think there are about 32 students, same as yesterday. Hopefully, this week we will not be too serious about attendance. Maybe next week onwards, we will try to see what's going on. Any case, so yeah, let's just commence today's discussion. All right. So today we are going to discuss quite a lot of interesting, important topics, but which may not not in full detail, but to some extent. What we will then I will do is like I will make some videos for you to watch in the weekend over the course of this week. So that way we will try to wrap up all the leftover topics that are there with respect to this random variables business. So yeah, that's what we will try to do this week. So let's see how it goes. So the first thing that I want to talk today is yeah. Before that, so let's just recap jointly distributed random variables. Okay, so this you have seen in the context of the discrete random variables. You have seen this already in discrete random variables. What we had was you write down basically all possible values of x and y, right? Some values here, some values here, and then once you write it all of this down, then you write what is the joint probability mass function. Okay, this is what it was, and then these are the numbers. The some of the things that we did in the case of discrete was that this was easy to understand that when you do this, sum over all possible values of x and y, you are going to get 1, right? And then we could also do expected value of x, expected value of y, and so on, right? So this expected value of x will be basically uh, sum over all possible values of x, ex comma y of x comma y. Okay, and so but this is now having y term, so you marginalize all the y's out. Okay, so this is how we will do, and this will give us so this was called as the marginal. So this was the marginal, which is equal to dx of x. That's all what we did in the case of discrete. And as I have been telling you, there is a corresponding analog that exists for even continuous. So in the case of continuous, what will happen is you will have a joint density function. This was called as joint mass function. Okay, in the case of continuous random variables, you will have the joint density functions. The summations will be replaced by integrations. Okay, minus infinity to infinity, minus infinity to infinity. Okay, you will have the exact same behavior. Okay, and then you can define basically, you can get the marginal density by integrating over all y, which is rather than writing like this, I can write directly this way. Fxy xy dy, and then all these analogous formulas we can define and so on. Okay, now till now, basically from the way we have been treating this joint distributed random variables, we have not really seen what is the dependence between x and y. Okay, all we have done is we have given like a list of like formulas, right? That's what we have been doing, but there should be some reason why we are studying them together, right? See, if I told you, right, random variables are like measurements. Okay, so why is it that you are doing measurements simultaneously? So why do you do it simultaneously? What benefit do you get? Okay, so when you do simultaneous measurements, you will get x and y together like this, or you will look at the joint density functions. Okay, so my point is, the question that I'm asking you to think over is that since we are studying them together, there must be some good reason that we are doing that. And that's again very natural, very easy to understand. So we will try to think of this via example. Okay, so let's look at examples. So let's look at first individually two concepts. So let's look at heights. Okay, and then let's look at weights. So let's call the heights of a population as x, the weights of a population as y. And as I have been telling you, all these natural phenomena such as heights and weights and then IQ and then, I don't know, maybe strength and all these things, right? They all follow normal distribution. So what that means is you will have a normal distribution like that for height, a normal distribution like this for weight. Okay, so this is what we will have. So the only difference being the heights will be, I think you can say this will be in inches. Okay, 5 feet 6 inches maybe, and the weights will be in kilograms. Right, that's the only difference. But they will be normal, and perhaps how it spreads, the variance of these things might be different. Okay, this variance, of course, it will be in inches, but how it spreads out might also look quite different. Okay, so this is what we get when we measure them simultaneously. But if you really think about it, yes, someone has a question. Okay, so if you really think about this a little bit more, what you will understand is heights and weights are related, right? So heights. So if someone is rather tall, it must be the case that it should be when heights go up, it must be the case that the weights also go up. Okay, and similarly, if heights go down, it must be the case that weight goes down. Okay, So now, so there is a clear dependence between the two, and if you do not record simultaneously, you will, if you don't record the height and the weight simultaneously, you will not understand this dependence. Okay. Now, what is the benefit of this? So let's try to even think a little bit more and see what is the benefit of simultaneously looking at these random variables together. So if you consider, let's say, height, okay, then let's say weight, okay, then let's say cholesterol, okay, then let's say what else? Age, okay. Then finally, let's say there is a condition, heart disease. Okay, so one thing is clear, right? If someone's weight is more, their cholesterol could be more. People who are older tend to be heavier sometimes, not always, but there is a probably a more positive relation. And then if someone's height is more, the weight also will be more. Possibly that might lead to more cholesterol, that might lead to more age. And perhaps all these put together might increase the chances of getting a heart disease, right? So this is a there is a natural relationship between these measurements. Okay. Now, in order to really these four parameters, right, height, weight, cholesterol, age, these are easy to do. This is easy to acquire. You know, this is a simple physical things. You can just ask the person; they may possibly know, or it can be measured in no time. Even cholesterol, you just need to make a small blood draw, and you will get it. Okay. However, this heart disease is a much more involved thing. You may not be able to measure it directly. Okay, so if you call this as x1, x2, x3, x4, and y, okay, so ideally there is a strong relationship between all of them. Okay, so it makes sense to make measurements together. Okay, this is the whole reason why we have jointly distributed stuff. Okay, so you will see this joint distribution will be used a lot in machine learning. Okay, so this was just a very small motivation why we even study this. All right. So now coming back to the probability idea, what we have been doing so far was we have been looking, even though there was x and y simultaneously, we have not really studied what is the dependence between the two. Okay, and this is where the new concept for today will help. So the new concept that I'm going to talk about is called the covariance. Okay, so this is a new concept. So this is defined for jointly distributed random variables. All right. So then once we are done with covariance, we will try to come back to this problem of having simultaneous measurements, and then we will see for in the special case of normals what this will mean. Okay, so that is something that I would like to do today if time permits. So now coming back to covariance, so this concept is defined as follows. So covariance is defined for a pair of random variables. Okay, so covariance of x and y, and this is defined as expected value of x minus ex into y minus ey. Okay, so in order to really get an understanding of how this parameter will be useful, let us just cook up an example. Okay, so let's look at a simple example. Let us say you have three random variables x, y, and z. Okay, so let's keep it simple. So we will take a random variable x to take values, let's say 1, 2, and 3. And y, what happens is as x increases, y also, let's say, it increases. So this becomes 3, 4, and 5. Okay, and z, however, it actually decreases as x increases or y increases. Okay, so this could be like, let's say, 4, 3, and 2. Okay, and let's assume all the probabilities of, so this is the So I've taken an example which is discrete. So let's write the mass function here. Okay. And let's assume for simplicity, this is 1 over 3, 1 over 3, 1 over 3. Okay. Now let us look at covariance of x comma z, and then let's look at covariance of x comma y. Okay. So for that, we need to do few computations. So expected value of x is 1 times 1 by 3 plus 2 times 1 by 3 plus 3 times 1 by 3, which is like the average of these three values, right? That is what it is. So this is going to be 2. Expected value of y, on the other hand, will be 4, and expected value of z will be 3. Okay, so let me just make some space for this discussion. I think you will get a fair idea looking at this example what this covariance is trying to do. Okay, so let's now look at x minus ex into y minus ey. Maybe we will do it step by step. So what we will do is we will look at x minus ex here. Then we will look at y minus ey in a separate column. And then z minus ez in another column. And then we will look at basically x minus ex into y minus ey, right? And x minus ex into z minus ez. Okay, so let's do this quickly. I want some participation, so let's just do that. So can someone tell me what will be the value of x minus ex here? Minus 1. Okay, so this is 1 minus 2. Okay, so that's why it is minus 1. For the other one, someone?
0.
0.
0 and then again
Oh, yeah, and
then 1.
then 1. Okay, so yeah, thanks. So that's, I just wanted to check if you all are following. Good, so everyone seems to be understanding, so that's nice. So again, we have this, but here we will have the opposite symbol. All right. So now when we do multiplication, what do you get? X minus ex into y minus ey. So you have to multiply these two. So this will be 1, this will be 0, and this will be 1. All right. Now when you multiply these entities, you will get minus 1, 0, minus 1. Okay. Now we are ready to look at covariance of x comma y. So which is this. Okay. So this is it's 1 by 3 times 1 plus 0 times 1 by 3 and like this, right? So covariance of x comma y in this particular example is, yes?
2 by 3.
Thank you. So this is 2 by 3. Whereas if you look at covariance of x comma z, you will get minus 2 by 3. Okay. So intuition, now we are able to make some kind of observation. Okay. So this observation is, so if x and y, if x increases, that means y also increases, then what you will have is covariance of x comma y will be positive. Okay. All right. Is that okay? Now, if x increases and z decreases, the covariance of x comma z will be negative. So do you understand how covariance is capturing the dependence? Anybody has any questions here? Yes. Can I have a quick chat poll? So if things are okay, can you say yes if everything is clear? Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much. So that's good to know people are following. Okay, so let's come back further. So now, so this covariance is capturing this dependence, and covariance tends to be positive if they are if one of the variable increases, the other one increases. Okay, so that is one thing. So let's
Excuse
yeah,
me, sir.
go ahead.
Sir, although can we just switch to the CS, sir? Although we can track that as x increases, y also increases, we can track this by covariance. But essentially, sir, we are not able to track like how good they are. For example, in case of x and z, let's assume we are talking about x and y,
Mm-hmm.
right? So in x and y, it is 1, 2, and 3, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
instead of y equal to 3, 4, y, if we even take y equal to 23, 24, and 25,
Yes.
right? Then also y minus ay will be the same, minus 1, 0, and 1.
Yeah, but what we are looking at is like see, there is a difference that we are taking away the mean. Do you see this?
Yes, sir.
So if you are going to shift this, let's say you make it 300, 400, 300, 400, 500 also. 300, 400, 500 is a bad example, but let's say you make it 9, 10, and 11. So there is a greater increase, but the thing is that relative increase is just the same because y minus ey is continues to be 1, 0, and 1.
No, sir, but
Siddhant.
essentially, if I talk of x, like in my example which I was talking about, if I
Yeah.
talk of x, right, 1, 2, and 3,
Yes.
x becomes double, and then becomes 1.5 times.
Mm-hmm.
But
Okay.
on the other hand, if I talk of y, it was 23, then it became 24, a very less significant increase,
Yes.
and then
Yes.
again a very less significant
So
increase.
yeah. So let me answer your question. So what you are saying is this is like when you go. So let me take a different color. So when you go from this to this, it is into 2. This to this, it is into 1.5. No, into 1.5. Right.
Yes.
Whereas this into this is not so much. It's lesser than this. Correct.
Yes.
But this is one way of looking at it. I don't say there is any problem. But if you look at the difference, this is plus 1. Okay, this is plus 1. Okay, so here also it's plus 1. Here also it's plus 1. See, what you looked at is a like if you treat it as a geometric series, yes, this would differ. I mean, geometric in the sense if you are looking at the ratio, this is a different entity. Whereas, but covariance is more not looking such things. It is looking at linear differences. This is a linear, right? There is no. It's not, for example, x divided by x. It's not like this. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
So here, what is captured is the differences, not the ratios. Okay.
Okay, sir.
So now instead of this, suppose this was 300, 400, and 500, then y minus ey instead of this will be minus 100. This will be plus 100. Okay. And then when you look at covariance, this number will be much bigger. Is that okay? So this will be 100.
Yeah, yes.
So this will be 200 by 3. Okay.
Yes.
So the magnitude of this covariance is actually indicating how much the shift is happening with respect to the mean. Okay. Everything is a differences with respect to the mean. All right. Okay. So I hope this clarified that matter. So let's move on. So even though the example that I gave was for discrete, so let us try to just make it a little more clear. So what I did previously, the whole discussion, it was for a discrete. So what that means is when I do covariance of x comma y, this was summation over x and y, okay, x minus ex into y minus ey, okay, p of x comma y like this, right? This is what we did in the previous example. The same thing will hold even for continuous, okay? So instead of having summation, we will have integration, okay? And here you will have x minus ex y minus Ey. Instead of the probability mass function, you will have probability density function. Okay, so this basically all the concepts that we have been studying. Okay, the statistics basically, these are all called the statistics, like expectation of x, expectation of x square. Okay, variance of x. Okay, now covariance of x comma y, standard deviation of x. All these concepts have like a very similar structure for both discrete as well as continuous. Okay. Anyway, so this was something just I just wanted to emphasize. I'm sure all of you do know this, but I just wanted to emphasize this. So moving on, so now let's try to look at this formula a little bit more and see what else we can say from this. Okay, so let's look at the formula covariance of x comma y. So now what I will use is I will try to use this for this expansion and try to see what we can do. A similar thing you can do even with the above expansion, but shouldn't change anything. Okay. So let's start with this. So I'm doing some algebra which is strictly omitted in the textbooks, but I'm just doing it so that you understand, what it means in that algebra that you see in textbooks. Okay. So let me just do this and try to simplify this. So let's start multiplying. So you will get xy minus x ey, okay, then minus y ex. Should write this as capital. This as capital. Okay. What else? Plus ex ey. Then this whole thing okay. Now what we will do is we will use linearity of integration. So we will break it into 4 pieces. Okay, so we will get minus infinity to infinity xy. So there are 2 integrations. Okay, so fxy. This is the first thing, minus now x ey f of and finally okay, so this is I'm just writing the same thing. I am just simplifying this. Now this we can observe immediately that this is E of xy. Oh, I'm sorry, not x comma y. That doesn't make any sense. E of xy. Okay. Now here in the second portion, this is a constant. Okay. This is a constant. So that we can pull out, and then you have double integration of x f of xy dx dy. What is that equal to? Yes. E of x. Thank you. So that is, so there was a e of y which we took outside the integration because that was a constant, and then you have e of x. Okay, minus again the same thing. E of now instead of taking e of y common, we will take e of x common. That is this is a constant for this integration, and the rest of the thing will give us e of y. And finally, coming to this, right? This is entire thing is a constant. We can pull it out, and if you integrate over the whole range of x and y values of f of x comma y, the density function, you are going to get 1. Okay, so this will be expectation of x into expectation of y. Now all these things are good. So now we can look at the thing that these 3 terms are actually the same. So what we get is that expectation of xy minus expectation of x expectation of y. So basically, covariance of x comma y is going to be given by this. Okay. So when you see this in your textbooks, they wouldn't take an example like this. What they will do instead, let me show that for you to see the difference. They will write it as expectation of x minus ex into y minus ey. They will write it like this. In the next step, they will actually do all the multiplications together. Okay. Y e of x minus, so plus y, x, x, y, okay, I should do it carefully. Xy and xey plus x, minus, minus, yeah, yex and plus exey. Okay, they do, I'm putting this so that we will follow one type of notation. They do this, and then in the very next step, they will write this as e of xy. Okay, then they will write this as e of x, e of y. Okay, minus e of y, e of x. And then this is what they do. Okay, so what they are essentially doing is they are not writing it for just continuous. This is a proof which works for both continuous and discrete. Okay, but in case you are wondering how that actually works out, it is through this mechanism here. Okay, and a similar thing will happen even when you have summation. So this is an easy point, but I just thought I should emphasize this. All right, so now coming back to this formula, so let's try to make some more observations around this formula. So let's start with this. So yeah, go ahead.
This covariance formula, if x and y are to be independent.
Yeah, so I'm coming to that actually. I will talk about that. Thank you. Okay, so as he was pointing out, so let's try to look at. Okay, so let us start with this formula. Okay, so this was the formula. Now, what were the things that we observed? So covariance of x comma y is greater than 0 when x increases, y increases, right? And then we saw that covariance of x comma y is less than 0 when x increases and y decreases, right? All these things we saw. Okay, so when this happens, actually I shouldn't be writing it this way, right? So the ideal way to write this is this. In case, because this is the cause. Okay, so this is the cause, and this results in this. Okay, so anyway, so this was what we saw earlier. Now let us try to look at if x and y are not related. Okay, so if x and y are not related is a very informal way of saying, but let us say are independent. Okay, so what does independence mean? So let us think about that for a few minutes. So let us, if x and y are independent. Okay, so what does that mean in the case of random variables? So this definition, this thing we have seen, but let me repeat. For discrete, what it means is that when you have the joint density function, if x and y are independent, it means that you can write it this way. Okay, and for continuous, okay, for continuous, what it means is that the joint density function can be written as okay. So this is what it means. Now we have also seen another proof. Okay, another concept, but I'm going to repeat it for the sake of refreshing your memory. But what we had seen was when you have x and y independent, and when you try to do an expectation of a product of two functions of x and y, we can show that it is equal to expectation of individual functions. Okay, so let's do this for the case of continuous. Okay, so let us take x and y are independent continuous random variables, and let's try to prove this identity. Okay, so let's take the LHS. What is that? It's expected value of, so let's write that. So this is gx h of y fx comma y, right? So this is the definition of the LHS. Okay, so now since x and y are independent, we can write this as dx dy. Okay, so let's write this as h of x, g of x, h of y, fx of x, fy of y, dx dy. Okay. Next, what we will do is we will group the terms with x together. Okay, so this we can write it as. See, all of these terms don't have anything to do with x, so we can pull that out. These terms have nothing to do with y, so we can just pull it out of the integration of y. Okay, and then we are left with h of y, fy of y, dy. Okay, so now that's it. So this is nothing but E of gx and E of hy. Okay, so this is an identity that we have seen. But what was the point of discussing this when we were talking about covariance? So let's think about that again. So why did we do that? So this is coming back to the comment someone made just a few minutes back. So if you look at this, right, and if x and y are independent, what does that mean? So if x and y are independent, and this is like h of x, this is like g of y. Okay, so what is h of x? H of x is x. Okay, what is g of y? G of y is y. So using the same formula here, what we get is covariance of x comma y is actually equal to expectation of x into expectation of y when x and y are independent. Okay, don't forget that. That is the most important thing here. So when you have something like this, we get this. All right. So what is the conclusion? So let me repeat the conclusion. So one is if covariance of x comma y. So again, I'm doing the same mistake. I shouldn't be writing this way. The cause is if x and y tend to increase together, that results in covariance of x comma y being greater than 0. Second thing is if x increases, however z decreases, then covariance of x comma z is less than 0. Third one is if x and y are independent, okay, that implies covariance of x comma y is 0. Okay, and this is called, so this is when x and y are independent, covariance is 0. So if a random variable is such that covariance is 0, they are called as uncorrelated. Okay. However, an important note: independence implies uncorrelated. Okay, but uncorrelated does not imply independence. So I'm going to ask you in one of your assignments to give me an example of this. All right. So what you need to do is you need to produce x and y two random variables which are uncorrelated. What does that mean? The covariance of x comma y for that random variable should be 0. And then you have to show that those random variables are not independent. So when is something not independent? You need to basically show that for some x and y, okay, this is not equal to. So that is what it means to say something is not independent. Okay, so that you will do it in one of your assignments. So now, in conclusion, we have got some nice properties with respect to covariance. All right. Any questions so far? Can I have a quick poll just to see if things are all right?
Sir, we had done one linearity derivation. I think you had uploaded a video about it.
Okay. What
Wherein
was
we had
that?
defined z is equal to x plus y,
Okay. Okay.
and then we had found out what is the variance of z.
Yes.
So that came out to be variance of x plus variance of y.
Provided x and
Plus,
y are independent.
variance of x plus variance of y plus 2 times the covariance function.
No, that derivation I didn't do. Maybe you have seen that in the other thing, in the MIT lectures. So I have not yet done that yet. So what I did was variance. So when x and y are independent, okay, then what I had shown was expected value of z is equal to expected value of x plus expected value of y. Okay, and I don't know whether I did the variance of z is equal to variance of x plus variance of y. I don't remember, but
I think it was
nevertheless,
done.
okay. So but I
Yes,
will, yeah.
sir, I guess expectation when the random variable is given as summation of other random variables, you can use in general the expectation of z
Yes,
is equals to
very
expectation.
good, very good. That is correct. Yes,
Yes.
that is true.
But for variance, you need to have
This,
independence.
yeah, this is not necessary for linearity. This is not necessary. Okay, you are right. Okay. Anyway, so we will come to those questions sometime. I will probably make some videos and upload it over this week so that we can finish up on some of these topics. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so that is good. So far, so good. So it looks like people are all following along based on the poll that I just did, which is fine. All right. Okay, so now there are a few more properties that I would like to cover for covariance, which are easy to see, but nevertheless, we should do it once. So, few properties. One is covariance of x with x. Okay, so what does that mean? This is equal to expected value of x minus ex into x minus ex, right? Siddhant, what was the message? I didn't understand. Okay, so this will be expected value of x minus ex whole square, right? Which is nothing but variance of x. So covariance of x with x, okay, is going to be variance. So that's a nice thing that we can understand. Okay, so that is one. Secondly, covariance of x comma cy, okay, is equal to expected value of x minus expected value of x. Okay, this will be cy minus expected value of cy. Okay, now we know that expected value of ax plus b is a times expected value of x plus b, right? Using that identity here, we can write this as c times expected value of y, and this c, we can all take it out of the expectation. So you will get c times okay, this is nothing but c times covariance of x comma y. Now property number 3, covariance of x comma y plus z. Okay, what is that? So that is nothing but expected value of x minus ex. Okay, now y plus z is some w. So we write that as it is. So this is y plus z minus expected value of y plus z. Okay. So what can we do with that? So expected value of x minus ex. Okay. This we can write as y minus ey plus z minus ez. Okay. Now this is like a plus b. Okay. So you just distribute it. Okay. So what you can do is you can distribute this multiplication. You will get expected value of x minus ex times y minus ey plus x minus ex times y minus ey. Okay, so now with the linearity of expectation, this will become covariance of
I think that will be
comma
z
y.
minus ez.
Sorry, yes. So this will be z minus ez. Thank you. So this will be covariance of x comma y, and the other one will be covariance of x comma z. Okay, so basically what you can see is that when you have covariances like this, it just splits up in this manner. Now we can actually do one more thing for us to observe, and then we are able to show something more. So next thing is covariance of y comma x. Okay, y comma x. What is that? That is expected value of y minus ey into x minus ex. Okay, so now this multiplication is commutative, so you can change it in any way you like. So this will be x minus ex into y minus ey. So this is nothing but covariance of x comma y. These are some easy properties that you can see with covariance. Okay, so after all of this, the next final thing that we can show is the big identity. It's easy to see, but let's just do that. So covariance of, basically, if you have sum of several random variables, xi's, okay, I equal to 1 to, I don't know, m, and summation yi, yj, j equal to 1 to n. So what is that going to be? You are now going to have all possible combination of this. Okay, so this will be summation I equal to 1 to n, summation j equal to 1 to n, covariance of xi, yj. Is this clear how we get this? So this is just an extension of 3 and 4. Okay, so if you apply 3 and 4 multiple number of times, you can get this. Maybe I can just show a few steps so that you understand how to do this. So what we will do is let w be equal to I equal to 1 to m xi. Is this okay? So now, okay, let me make some space. Okay, so now, so we are trying to prove this identity. So the left hand side will be covariance of w comma summation yj, j equal to 1 to n. Now what we do is we look at 3. Using 3, we can split it up into all these things. So this will be covariance of w comma y1 plus covariance of w comma y2 and so on. Okay. Next, what we will do is using 4, we will do the interchange. Okay, which is nothing but summation covariance of yj comma summation I equal to 1 to what is this? what was that? I equal to 1 to m xi. Okay, this is j equal to 1 to n. So now again applying the other formula, j equal to 1 to n, we will get this as I equal to 1 to m. Okay, covariance of yj xi. Okay, now we know that covariance of yj xi is same as xj yi. Okay, so we will get the desired thing. Okay, is that clear to everybody what these things were? Okay, so yeah, so let's just try to do one additional thing here. So this identity is important. So, but there is one more thing you can do. So, what if you try to take covariance of? Okay, maybe I will give these other things as assignments. So let me not dwell into this, otherwise it will get very boring. Okay, so yeah, so that's good. Okay, so now there is the next topic that I want to talk about is multivariate Gaussian. Okay, so what I was telling right in the beginning of the class, is if you come back to the discussion that we were having, is that when you measure simultaneously, you may be able to see some patterns which was not very clear from before. Okay, so when you measure heights and weights simultaneously, you may be able to get, and that's what led to the discussion on covariance. Now coming back to the original point of measuring things simultaneously, let us look at what is meant by multivariate Gaussian. Okay, so that is the next topic. So this is a very, very important field. You will find that it is used quite often in machine learning. It's used quite often in other applications also. Okay, in particular Kalman filters and then Gaussian processors and then stochastic finance. All kinds of places you will have this Gaussians appearing, multivariate Gaussians. So as an example, let us take two random variables x and y. Okay, let's say that they are normal mu1 sigma 1 squared, normal mu2 sigma 2 square. Okay, and further let us just to make things simple and further assume that x comma y are independent. Okay, so now let us try to draw let's try to write the joint density function of this. Okay, now since they are independent, we know that this is going to be, we know this, and let's do the simplification further. So what is this? This is 1 over root 2 pi sigma 1 into e power minus x minus mu1, right? 2 sigma 1 squared into 1 over root 2 pi sigma 2 e power minus y minus mu2 whole squared by 2 sigma 2 square. Okay, so now we know they are all independent. So let's just do further simplification. Root 2 pi, I will write it as 1 over 2 pi to the power of k by 2. Okay, where k is equal to 2. What I mean to say is, like, there are two random variables which I am considering which are independent, right? So if they were k, it will be root 2 pi, k times will be there. So in general, this is a root 2 by 2 pi to the power of k by 2. All right. This will be sigma 1, sigma 2. Okay. So that is, let's come back to that a little bit later. And now what I have is e power minus x minus mu1 square by, so half minus half I will take common. I will write it as okay. This is what I will do. Now what I will do is
Sir, it's y minus over there.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. So this is good. So now what I will do next is that I'm going to call. I'm going to go to linear algebra. Okay, linear algebra notation. You will see why this is important, but let me call sigma as this matrix of sigma 1 square 0 0 sigma 2 square. Okay, so now what is the determinant of this matrix? So determinant you can write with this notation. So what is the determinant? Yes, somebody? It is this. Okay. So that is one observation. So what I will do is that I will write the numerator here 1 over 2 pi to the power of k by 2. Here, instead of sigma 1, sigma 2, I'm going to write the determinant's square root. Okay. And then this, so e power, so what is the inverse of sigma inverse? Let us do that. What is sigma inverse? So that is cofactor matrix transpose, right, divided by the determinant. So it is actually this. You can check it later, but this is what it is. Yes. So this is sigma inverse. Okay. So now what further I will do is I will write. So this was one linear algebra step. I will write x as x comma y. Okay, and mu as mu1, mu2. So I will put a little bar to indicate that these are vector notations. Okay, so now what I will do is this will be minus half. Okay, x minus mu transpose sigma inverse x minus mu. See, what I did essentially is I have written something here, but if you actually take this matrix notation and if you multiply, this will be matrix multiplication. If you multiply and if you simplify, you are going to get the same thing. All right. Is that okay? So you can try it out as a homework. Okay. So just try it out as a homework and see whether fxy of x comma y can be written in this fashion, where x bar is the vector xy, mu bar is mu1, mu2, and so on. Okay. So the idea of writing this way, what it gives us is that you can generalize this for any k. Okay. And these entries. Okay. So in general, what this is going to be, in general, x will be basically several Gaussians, x1, x2, xn. Okay, mu will be several mu's, mu1, mu2, mun. Your covariance, this sigma will be the covariance matrix. What that means is it will be covariance of x1, x1. Okay, covariance of x1, x2. Okay, and finally covariance of x1, xn. Then covariance of x2, x1. Okay, this will be covariance of x2, x2, and so on. All right, so this is what is the generalization. So when you generalize with this notation, instead of just k equal to 2, where we only considered x and y, you can generalize it for any k. All right, so anyway, so I will start in the next class. I will explain this a little more and we will start from there. Okay, so today we have covered a lot of topics. So let me just very briefly summarize it. So basically, we started with the observation that whenever you measure things simultaneously, you will be able to understand the dependence. The dependence that we formalized was called as covariance. And the general trend is if x and y are increasing together, covariance is positive. If x and y are decreasing, one is increasing, one is decreasing. So there's a mistake here, right? So if x is increasing, y is decreasing, then covariance will be negative, and if they are independent, they are called uncorrelated, and that will be 0. So independence implies uncorrelated. The other way around is not true. You will do an assignment problem to show that. Further, we saw several properties of covariances. That was the next discussion. And finally, that led us to multivariate Gaussian. What we did for multivariate Gaussian is we began with independence assumption. Okay, and then we did some simplification. We converted to linear algebra notation. This seemed like very whimsical. It seemed like I'm just doing it for the fun sake. But then what I said is that this generalizes very elegantly to more random variables, not necessarily two, and also sigma can be thought of as a covariance matrix. So covariance of x1, x1 is nothing but variance of x1. So that is how these things are, and covariance, this one is same as this one. Okay, so sigma is actually a symmetric matrix, and there are a lot of very nice properties that this matrix possesses. Okay, we will try to see some of these things in the next class. So okay, so that's about it. So let me stop here. So thanks for the attention. I hope you have a good lunch. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.